Good morning. So I'm going to try something a little bit different today. It's just like a video posting. I have voted in every election since I turned 18. This October, I'm going to turn 69. So I've been voting for 50 years. And this past week was one of the few times when I felt like my vote didn't count. Not just my vote didn't count, my vote got stolen. My vote got just totally ignored. I mean, even times I voted and the person I voted for didn't win, my vote still counted. It was there. I could see it on the thing. But this past week in Orange County, the governor of the state decided to change the state attorney from the person who I voted for to somebody who I basically I'd actually heard of him before, but didn't know a lot about. Monique Worrell is not, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, perfect state attorney. There's some things where I disagreed with her on, but I voted for her because she had kind of a progressive agenda where, she was going to try and do justice in a way that's going to be more even-handed. Every person who commits a crime is not necessarily a bad person. A person who made mistakes, kind of like a pencil's got an eraser on it, because good people sometimes make mistakes. Everybody who committed a crime doesn't need to go to prison for 5 or for 10 years. Everybody who committed a crime maybe doesn't even need a conviction, because a conviction on your record makes it harder for you to get a decent job or a decent place to live. So something somebody did at 18 that they shouldn't have done should not still be affecting them when they're 50 years old. I mean, so that's why I voted for Monique Worrell. And then this governor comes in and he just decides no due process, no consultation, no anything, just to kind of change the state attorney. I mean, 395,000 people in Orange and Seminole County voted for her, and he just basically ignored all of our votes. And I'm not a lawyer, but I don't see how that could possibly be right. Now, this past week, I've gone to 2 different meetings about this issue and some other things, some other high-handed things that this same governor has done. And it felt good to be at those meetings or those rallies, and everybody said a lot of important things. But where do we go after there? What do we just and we just go away and we just let him keep doing that? He can eliminate people from office who he doesn't agree with. At what point is he going to start dealing with people like me, individuals who don't disagree with it? At what point will he be sending somebody to my house or sending somebody to my social media to basically shut me down and lock me up or concoct some reason that I've somehow committed a crime? I mean, so I guess I'm hoping some of my friends can suggest what are things that we can do other than talk about it. Wear shirts. Like I like to wear a lot of shirts that have different different messages on them. Right now I'm wearing my Stay Woke shirt, and it's funny when I wear these shirts and I go places, and I wear these in public, and I purposely wear them in public, not to get attention, but to get people thinking about different issues and stuff. And I've pretty much gotten positive feedback from people while wearing these shirts. And what I'm trying to tell people, when you see the shirt, and if you agree with the message on the shirt, or you like the fact, that's what people tell me. I mean, I have black people and white people tell me, wow, I like that shirt. I'm trying to tell people, if you like the shirt, then spread the word and stand up and fight back. But, all these meetings, these 2 meetings I went this week, they talk about the importance of voting. And voting is important. Although I'll tell you, my daughter kind of disagrees with that a little bit, and she's more of a supporter of the idea of direct action. Because as she points out, the segregation of Montgomery buses was not resolved by people voting. It was resolved by direct action, by people taking an action that forced the administration to change their idea. The Greensboro, lunch counters weren't desegregated by a vote. It was, again, people taking direct action. So what are the direct action things we can do? I mean, I think it's got to be more than just like, we're going to go up to Tallahassee and we're going to protest. Well, I don't know if I'd even recommend that, because a really good friend of mine, Gertie Remy, some other people went up there not too long ago to protest something, and now they've all ended up with criminal charges on them for a peaceful protest they were in. So I don't know if going to Tallahassee, because two things. Number one, if they're going to arrest you for protesting, even though that's constitutionally protected action in the First Amendment to go and protest, if they're going to arrest you for that, then that's not a good idea. And then two, nobody or very few people, if they care what we have to say. So what other constructive things can we do to push back other than complain and vote? And also, when it comes down to voting, here's the thing I think that we can do right now. For everybody who's running for office, and there's some local elections that are going to be held this fall, and certainly, the other elections that will be held, in 2024, one of the things we can start asking candidates, we need to ask all candidates, do you respect people's votes? I mean, do you think that people have a right to vote? And when they vote, when you get the results of that vote, will you adhere to whatever those results are? I mean, they need to be able to answer that question. They need to be able to answer it clearly. Then you need to ask them, do you support the governor being able to just remove people from office because he doesn't agree with their policies? And then they'll start whining about, oh, Monique Worrell and this and that and the other. I'm not saying she's perfect, but there is a system that's involved with, if you don't like the way the person's doing their job, elected officials doing his or her job, then you vote them out. People just can't come in and just change things. And remember, I said, this is not the first time this governor has overruled voters. Back several years ago, we had the vote to let, people who had, felony convictions, allow them to vote. Then he found a way to kind of overturn that and make that impossible. Since then, he has, he's removed school board members, he's removed a sheriff, he's removed another state attorney, stuff like that. How does this guy get to do that? And why do we keep letting him do this? We've got to find a way to push back. And we've got to find a way, because if we don't push back, if we don't do something, like I said, we think this is bad what they did to Monique Worrell. At what point do you think, which I think is going to happen, that they're going to start to target people like me and other activists for speaking out, for criticizing him and stuff like that? Where does this end? So I guess I'm putting this up here to find out what are some constructive things that we can do, both as groups, but also more importantly as individuals. What can we do to push back against this? What can we do to stop this from happening? What can we do to make more people care about it? A lot of people say, oh yeah, that was kind of bad. They just go about their business. They can't just go about their business. This is exactly the way dictatorships are formed. We live in Florida, in the United States of America. We don't live in North Korea. We don't live in Russia. We don't live in a million other places where dissenters are not allowed to speak out, where we're not allowed to express an unpopular thought, because in those places people end up in prison. People end up disappeared. This is the way that we're going here in Florida. Right now it's Monique Worrell. This time next year, maybe it's me. Maybe it's you. Remember that old saying, first they came for the socialists. I was not a socialist, so I didn't stand up. Then they came for the Jews. I was not a Jew, and I didn't stand up. And then they came for me, and there was nobody left to stand up for me. So I'm really putting this out there to find out some ideas on what are some constructive and creative things we can do as individuals to push back against this madness. Thank you very much.